Now, let's go to our distinguished panel. No, first up, we're going to have Mitt Romney's huge 22-point lead in Florida. That, according to the latest Rasmussen poll. So he's got that. But it's a different story in South Carolina. There, Romney's getting some heat from Newt Gingrich. Listen to this. Insider Advantage poll has them almost identical. 23% for Romney, 21% for Gingrich. So the question is, have the attacks on Bain Capital really helped Gingrich, apart from the fact that the whole GOP establishment is against him? Let's drill down on that. Here's our distinguished all-star panel. Kevin Madden is a former 2008 Romney campaign senior advisor. Ari Melber is a correspondent for The Nation magazine. And CNBC contributor Tony Fratto, a former Bush 43 White House deputy press secretary. Welcome, gentlemen. Kevin, let me go to you first. Lots of stories today featuring you, yourself. Okay, you're a key guy. Now, is Mitt going to mount a true counterattack? Is there going to be a better accounting of the whole private equity story? Because whether this poll is any good or not, it does show at least a threat that the Gingrich attacks are working.
Look, I think the Romney campaign has been involved in a counterattack from the very beginning. We have been methodically demolishing any of the distortions that you've seen from and from Rick Perry. I think at the same time, this has really been an opportunity.
Are you sure? Can I just challenge on that? Because look, okay. I know it didn't affect the New Hampshire outcome, and that was Mitt Romney's line Tuesday night and Wednesday. But here on Thursday, this Gingrich poll shakes things up, and a whole lot of people are saying, look, if you have this solid open and shut case that your private equity work and investment work was a good turnaround, did create new jobs, when are you going to come out and say it? Now, I think we have, do we have the Romney side? Here's what he said. Let's just take a listen and then get Kevin to comment. Here's what Romney said.
There are a number of businesses that we helped start, which collectively you can just look on their websites, added well over 100,000 jobs. Staples, Bright Horizons Children's Centers, the Sports Authority, Steel Dynamics, those four alone added well over 100,000 jobs.
All right. Now, the governor has said that before, more or less. Let me ask you, will you go beyond that, Kevin? You're in the campaign, essentially. Will you go beyond that?
Well, I think the answer is yes, but I do think it's three-pronged. First, you have to dismantle the distortions that Perry and Gingrich have been engaged in the last few days. The second part of it is that you have to seize this as an opportunity to go out and defend the free enterprise system, to defend capitalism in a Republican primary. That is a very the generic point. That is a very good place to be in a Republican primary, to be the person who is defending free markets and free enterprise and economic freedom in a Republican primary. And then I think you also have to show that you have to tell the stories about what private capital, what private equity does in this particular market, that there are pension funds, that there are investment funds, there are endowments, all tied to how this part of the industry helps grow the economy.
Here's the key point.
Right. And there's one other last point.
And it's just on this point. The biggest investors, there was a big Wall Street Journal story of investors in private equity, and you're right, college endowments, private pension funds, public government pension funds. Can you document, can the campaign document exactly the benefits, the rate of return benefits that they derive? Because it seems to me that would be a killer point.
I think that's it. I think that you have, there are powerful stories to tell, both anecdotally and empirically, about private equity and free enterprise and how it helps the larger economy. But I think most importantly is after you're done talking about the success of Staples, after you're talking about the success of endowments, you're talking about the success of Sports Authority and other companies like that have grown because of private equity. I think that what's most important is that Governor Romney gets back to talking about the future. What does the United States economy look like come January 20th, 2013 with him as president? How are we going to create jobs? How are we going to spur more private investment?
How about a big bang across the board tax reform plan? You've heard this before. But in some sense, that would change the subject. It would give you this new big idea and say, look, by the way, this was yesterday. Here's what I want to do tomorrow. Here's my agenda. Is that
I think all of that is going to be an important part of it. I think the governor talking about what economic growth is going to look like under President Romney, how we're going to bring back businesses, both big and small, how we're going to help not only the lower class but the middle class, and how it is that that investment at the top levels of income are going to help the entire economy. All of those are going to be important levers of the governor explaining what a revamped economy looks like under a Romney administration.
Let's just take a little break on that. We're going to get to Senator Jim DeMint in a minute, but Ari Melber, were you satisfied by Kevin Madden's counterattack ideas for Mitt Romney's counterattack against Newt Gingrich's attack? Did I make myself clear on that?
Very clear there. Kevin said 3 things, and he was right on 2 of them. Number 1, this is a political win for Mitt Romney in a Republican primary when you are on this side of the issue, no question politically for now. Number 2, Bain did well for its investors. The investment conversation is what are your yields? They did well. There were pension funds and groups that people might like.
So you agree
in
with
there.
me if he can have specific rate of returns on those
on the investment part. But here's the third part. Here's the third part where you are wrong, and wrong in a way that's going to hurt Mitt Romney. And that is, this is not an election about investment returns. This is an election about people. And until Mitt Romney comes out and gives facts, which he has not done, as you showed in that clip, about what happened specifically during his tenure at Bain. Bain Capital this week in Politico said they cannot confirm yes or no whether there was a net gain in jobs during his tenure.
Is that true?
And he said 100,000 net gain.
Look, and the opposition is putting these, human stories up on the. Can you get specifics on that?
There are absolutely there are specifics. There are metrics. There are human stories about the success of Bain Capital, the success of private equity, the success of the private sector, the free enterprise system, and all of that is going to lead us to a platform to talk about what we would do for the economy. I think Ari's most important point is that I think the Obama campaign and people who are not interested in the economy want this campaign to be about the past. They want it to be a relitigation of things that happened 20 years ago.
I got to say, but
this is an election. This is an election that is going to be about the future.
Mitt Romney brought up the past. Mitt Romney came out and said, I created at least 100,000 jobs. He brought up this issue, and now he's got to deal with it.
Tony Fratto, what should they do? I know you've been waiting patiently. Thank you for that.
Look, we're going to have the longest general election campaign maybe in the history of the country, right? We're going to go from now until November. Let's have exactly this conversation about the role of the allocation of capital in this country and what it does.
Should we have run an ad?
And growth.
Should they have done an ad with Kevin Madden and Ari Melber? Let's just do the ad.
Want to do it right now?
I'd love to. Terrific points right there. But you can have this conversation about kitchen table and about what makes this country succeed, what makes businesses in this country succeed, and it's not necessarily always the metric of how many jobs were created. Yeah, if I could use
I got to say, as someone who is totally sympathetic to the private equity cause, I mean, I am their free market capitalism, their success and failure. But the point I'm making here is that Mitt Romney used that as one of his key rationales for his candidacy. Namely, he understands the economy better than Obama because he, Mitt, worked in the private sector through this private equity Bain Capital. So therefore, even if that's his old flank, he's got to defend that flank.
And I think he can defend it. And frankly, I think the example that Mitt Romney has been using about GM, right, it's a brilliant example against President Obama in a general election campain, right?
Obama all of a sudden was in the private equity business.
He was in the private equity business 2 ways,
by bailing out General Motors.
Once with General Motors and Chrysler, also with a company like Solyndra, right? Talk a little bit about risk capital.
But Larry,
talk about where you put capital to work and what the benefits are.
Only Mitt Romney says this should be a private sector function, not a government. All right, hang on. I got to move on. I interviewed Senator Jim DeMint, Republican from South Carolina.